We've been digging around hard issues and reflecting what kingdom leadership really is and what it means to follow Jesus' example of leading opposite to what we see around us. Now, how does this apply to the specifics of an actual mentoring relationship? What does it mean to help someone develop in every area of their personhood, and how is this rather unique to the mentoring process? In this episode, we want to discuss how mentoring can be a vehicle to encourage and see life transformation.
Welcome to Leadership Matters with Dr. Phil. His podcast discusses matters of leadership that really matter. Phil has had the privilege of mentoring leaders and coaching ministry teams around the world for several decades, and he's really looking forward to sharing with you some of the principles that have been so helpful for others. Leadership is about serving others, not power or position. Regardless of our context, family, job, ministry, or any circle of influence, we all have the potential to be this kind of leader. A foundational leadership skill that is often overlooked is mentoring intelligence. This series is based on the materials Phil has developed over a lifetime and taught in a variety of cultural contexts. To access all of our podcasts as well as our bonus leadership resources, just click the links in the description below or go to icmcanada.org/leadershipmatters or icmcanada.org/mentoring-intelligence. So now, let's join Phil as he discusses some leadership matters.
As we've seen, mentoring is coming alongside of someone and helping them reach their goals, helping them become all that God wants them to be. It's not about developing yes men who will help us reach our vision and our goals. Now, I hope that clicking sound I hear is not the sound of people changing the channel. Hang in there with me, as I think you'll find this helpful. So to finish well, as we've mentioned last time, all leaders need those who will mentor them as well as offer them the gift of mentoring. The reality is that as we invest in others, we will be challenged and grow in our own life and ministry. Remember, we are just one member of the body. So as leaders, we also need to change, not just dispense truth to others and for them to change. Helping others grow will motivate us to keep up to date with our own spiritual, personal ministry life. That's just the reality of what happens. But as we have said repeatedly, this does not just happen automatically. While it is very important, mentoring others will never seem urgent. It's up to us to take the initiative. Perhaps it does not need mentioning, but it's important to remember that mentoring is not an event that occurs with the crowds. It happens out of sight, more in the background. This may explain why those who think that ministry is primarily a public activity don't value it and don't make the time to do it. Mentoring involves more than just teaching someone skills or how to do ministry. It actually should have a threefold balance between the heart, the head, and the hands. The heart signifies character development, instilling the love, values, and passions of Christ and leader. The head refers to knowledge acquisition, helping the mentoree develop understanding, knowledge, and wisdom. And finally, there's also the hands, or some skill development. This should include life skills, not just ministry skills, so that they will be balanced as they seek to discover their role in fulfilling God's plan for their life. So then it's about more than just skills or even theological training. Rather, its focus is the application of biblical truth in every aspect of a person. It's all about life transformation, seeing the life of Christ formed in someone. This includes 3 different levels of personal development. Let me explain it like this. From the chart, you can see 3 areas of personal development represented in the diagram, in the triangle there. On the top are the ministry or career skills. These are what's visible for others, signified by the red line. Everything above the line is visible to others, while everything below the line is not readily seen by others. The skills are the capabilities a person needs in order to be effective in their particular job or ministry. These are the abilities others see, and they're specific to the job and not necessarily transferable to other jobs or ministries. Usually these are acquired through technical training, and mentoring can play a role in helping the mentoree develop these skills. However, as we know, it is possible to master the skills of a particular career or ministry and yet fail in our relationships and other key areas of our life. skills and giftings are seldom enough, or not even the best indicator of success. You know, the first level of below the surface then of that line that we're not always aware of are what we call transferable abilities. These are the capabilities that we have that are useful in more than one specific job or ministry. For example, it could include skills such as listening or public speaking, making decisions, leading meetings, and so on. Though a person may change jobs, these skills follow them to the next job because they're part of who they are. They're not even often listed in a resume. So they're below the skill level. This is an area of personal development that mentoring can really help a person understand and grow. But at the deepest level of personal development are the foundational tendencies, which we all have as part of our personhood. These are habitual ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving that we all have developed from our earliest days of childhood. They are really the essential level of personhood and are fundamental to the other two areas. They are the most hidden and yet the most powerful area to develop if we are going to be healthy and effective people and leaders. You know, this includes skills such as receiving constructive criticism, relating to authority, having self-awareness, responding in conflict situations, being self-correcting, how one responds when in control and out of control, and so on. They tend to be at an unconscious level, and so are more like tendencies than they are skills. They explain why a person does what they do in the other two areas. And this is the most important area in determining a person's success in life, but is seldom dealt with outside of a personal mentoring relationship. Not too many people know us at this level, and yet most of what we do in life stems from these deep-seated beliefs and values. You know, the goal of the mentoring relationship then is not just to deal with skills, but to help a person become self-aware and grow at this deepest level of their being. The mentor does not need to be an expert, as we'll see, but they can function as a resource for the mentoree to help them grow in the areas that the mentoring has a need. The reality is that in most jobs, people get hired for their skills, but fired due to their tendencies. In the CV or resume, and even in the job interview, it's easy for the candidate to cover up these tendencies. Actually, they may not even be aware of them. And the focus in the interview is usually on skills and everything above the line. Less time is spent dealing with the candidate's self-awareness, emotional health, and teachability. As this is true in the marketplace, my experience has been that it's not much different really in the church. Our human tendency is to focus on the outward, the skill, the charisma, the giftings, not really these deeper issues that are so important. So when it comes to staffing or even getting volunteers in the church, we typically gather resumes for the position, and we may even spend a few days with the potential candidate, seeing if they can preach and teach and have the skills to lead in worship and so on, whatever the position may be. However, usually little time is spent to discover some of their fundamental tendencies. This makes sense, as it's hard to do outside of a trusting relationship, which takes time. For example, let's just say we're on a leadership team at a church. A bright young man, let's call him Bob, has just given his life to Jesus and is on fire in his new faith. Then as an added bonus, we discover that he's gifted musically. Excellent, a blessing from the Lord. So we ask him to join the worship team, and man, he really adds to the mix. I mean, the guitar chords that this guy uses is really out of this world. We're convinced that with him on the team, the worship experience is going to be incredible from now on. So pretty soon, he becomes the lead musician. Oh, and did I mention his voice? Wow, it's really got to be heard to be believed. Now, since his skill level, though, is so much above the rest of the team, it's not very long before we ask him to be a team leader. After all, our gifts make room for us, right? And this eventually leads to greater influence and finally more authority. It's usually what happens. So in this case, things are looking great in the worship department for the church. We can kind of put that behind us. He's young, but we're sure his charisma and his off-the-charts skill will make up for any deficits he might have. Well, if you've been around church for any length of time, you know there's probably a but or a however coming here somewhere. You're right. Soon after being team leader, though, we begin to notice that on Mondays our phone begins to ring. You see, other members of the worship team are calling us. Some are in tears, others frustrated, and at first we just think they're just adjusting to having such a skilled leader. After all, they're not used to that. We want to focus on excellence now, right? But then a few people quit the team, and fast forward 6 months, one day at Sunday morning you look up at the platform and there's Bob, up there just by himself with his guitar. Now the problem or pending crisis is probably hit our radar now. We begin to meet with all the previous team members, discover that yes, he was skilled musically, but his perfection, anger issues, maybe unwillingness to listen to others has driven everyone away, which is why he is now a one-man show. It is likely we'll have to ask him to step aside, which is a nice way of saying firing him, but as you know, that's hard to do with volunteers. Of course, the danger of this is that it may cause a church split. People like Bob are usually too gifted to just fade away stage left, biding their time until their character grows to the level to sustain their giftings. Of course, this is the genesis of many church plants. He was hired for his skills, but he's fired for the issues under the surface. And we all have issues, which is why we need others. Now you can insert different names and varied positions for that story, but I'm sure you can identify with some version of that story. What happened? What went wrong? Well, we focus on the skills and not the fundamental tendencies. For to do that, we would have had to spend time with Bob before making him team leader, maybe even before he joined the worship team. Mentoring is the best way of doing this. If we would have walked with him, discovering areas in which he needed to grow, we could have saved ourselves a world of hurt. We would have found out if he was teachable before releasing a role to him, that would naturally increase his influence and authority, which we could have guessed was going to happen. And we could have likely avoided losing the rest of the worship team in the process, and perhaps watching half the church walk out the back door. But mentoring is never urgent, even though it's important. Yet our lack of taking the time initially eventually will create a crisis that becomes very urgent. It's our choice. Now, I painted a worst case scenario picture, but we have all seen some version of this play out in our life and our ministry. And as you know, it's probably not really Bob's fault. He just needed someone to mentor him for a while, to come alongside of him. The rest of the series we're going to look at practical aspects of a mentoring relationship. But the goal is always to help someone grow as a person. Now, we can't grow for them. All we can do is create the right conditions for them to make the choice to grow themselves. That's the power of mentoring. Yes, it takes time, effort, vulnerability, as we've seen, but the impact in someone's life and ministry can be dramatic and long-lasting.
Listeners of our Leadership Matters podcast have exclusive access to our free bonus leadership materials, which include our MQ assessments as well as his Developing Others workshop. Just click the link in the description or go to our website, icmcanada.org/mentoring-intelligence. If you would like to take a deeper dive into this topic, click on the link in the description box where you can download Phil's Mentoring Intelligence book and the workbook. In it, he discusses the key factors that affect our mentoring intelligence and then offers a practical mentoring model which leaders have been using for decades around the world. The Mentoring Through Intentional Relationship Guides are a practical model to actually help you mentor someone. They are available in several languages and over the years have been used by thousands of leaders. The content, discussion questions, and other tools are designed to assist you in mentoring a potential leader and are available at icmcanada.org/resources.
Some leaders have outlined three basic levels of mentoring. There's passive, occasional, and intensive mentoring. Now, no need for us to get into the weeds on each of these now, but let me just quickly outline them for you. The one that requires the least amount of effort and accountability is passive mentoring. In this scenario, we may never even meet the mentor. Perhaps we're only influenced by reading their book or listening to a podcast. This could be a contemporary of ours, or perhaps it could be a historical figure, someone that's passed on that really inspires us. This is helpful, but it's not really an accountable relationship, and without accountability, there's often limited growth. And for the purpose of our series here, I'm not primarily thinking of this type of passive relationship. Now there's also occasional mentoring, which refers to mentoring that's not as regular as intensive, and yet is more proactive than the passive version. Often it is for a specific time or purpose. It could take the form of being a counselor, providing advice for a specific problem or challenges, or perhaps like a teacher, passing on specific knowledge on a particular subject. It may even take the form of a sponsor who provides guidance and protection for the mentee as they grow and progress in the organization. While we all need these types of mentors in our lives, this again will not be the main focus of our discussions in this series. No, but the most intentional and deliberate mentoring relationship is the intensive mentoring relationship. This requires the greatest amount of engagement and accountability, but also produces the greatest opportunity for growth in the mentee's life. This personal relationship can include teaching a person the disciplines of following Christ, which we'll talk more about in our next episode. But for our purposes, it will also be used to describe not only helping a mentee grow spiritually, but also in every area of their personhood, from their ministry skills to their foundational tendencies. As we have briefly discussed in previous episodes, mentoring is never an emergency. And so without developing some kind of wineskin or structure in our life, it will likely not happen. Add to this the energy it takes to break free from the inertia of negative leadership patterns that we've all borrowed from the world, and the reason that not much real mentoring is happening starts to become pretty evident. We need to have a transformation of our heart to see Jesus' kingdom values when it comes to leadership, and then we need to develop models of that in our lives to make it happen for us. This is why, after teaching about mentoring, I went a step further years ago and developed a one-year model called Mentoring Through Intentional Relationships, which you can get from our website. And this provides a 1 or to a 2-year guide to help someone mentor another person. What do they talk about? What's the content? How do you do it? As we've seen, there are several types of mentoring relationships. But we're talking about here is a particular type of relationship that has the main intention of helping someone understand and implement kingdom principles in their lives so that they can be effective and reach their potential. We looked at 3 levels of mentoring relationships, but let me also just take a few moments and talk about 3 types of mentoring relationships as we conclude our episode today. These are characterized by 3 biblical characters: Barnabas, Timothy, and Epaphroditus as examples. Barnabas is a model of someone who saw potential in others and encouraged them. In a future episode, we'll discuss his contribution as a mentor of a young, at the time, pretty unknown upstart that no one else trusted. Each of us also needs a Timothy, or someone with whom we can share and help them grow in life and ministry. And finally, an Epaphroditus, which was a friend of Paul and part of his early ministry team. These are peer relationships we can enjoy as we learn from them in our own lives and ministry. We'll look at these in greater detail, but do you have a Barnabas in your life? An upward mentor that's investing in you? How about a Timothy, someone that you're investing in? Or an Epaphroditus, a peer mentor, someone you're walking the journey of life with? Maybe a few guys. In future episodes, we'll look at the dynamics of all these types of mentoring relationships. But at this point, we just need to be reminded that we need a variety of mentoring relationships in our lives if we're going to grow and continue to be effective in the kingdom. Our focus in this series will be an intentional personal relationship. But even this type of relationship has certain boundaries, as we'll see. As I mentioned at the very beginning of episode 1, when a term morphs into meaning everything, then it actually often ends up meaning nothing. If we put the label mentoring on virtually every type of relationship, it loses its real meaning and power. While these principles are transferable to other relationships, I want to share some of the dynamics of a specific mentoring relationship which has the purpose of developing a potential leader. We all have it within our power to mentor others. We can make the effort by taking the time to develop them, even if we have not had this opportunity given to us ourselves. So in our next episode, we're going to define mentoring by looking at what it's not, focusing on discipling and spiritual fathering. This will be helpful in understanding what we are looking for in a mentor and what we have to offer someone when we are mentoring them. As always, I hope you join me. But before then, I'd like to leave you a few leadership matters to consider. How has the lack of focusing on the development of the whole person affected your ministry? What crises or crises could have been avoided? Do you or have you had passive, occasional, intensive mentoring relationships? How about a Barnabas? Do you have a Barnabas in life? Do you have a Timothy? Are you a Timothy to others? How about Epaphroditus? Do you have Epaphroditus type of relationships in your life?
Thank you for listening to Leadership Matters. If this has been helpful, please remember to like, subscribe, and share us. Doing this will enable others to benefit from this material as well. If you would like to partner with us to provide these materials to leaders who cannot afford them, please go to icmcanada.org/donation.